For this review, this is the endocrine review. I'm just going to go over some items that I think you should focus on for your first test. I'll tell you things I'm looking for, things I'm going to tell you not to worry about. Here we go. You obviously want to know this chart. This first chart is really important, okay? So the whole thing, the first page, the whole chart is really important, and I want you to know it. Now, I'm not going to ask you what is in the cranial area, what's in the cervical area. I don't really care about that because you've already done that in the lab. But what I do care about is what hormones are produced by what gland. So, for example, you may see a question on the test that says something like, which of the following is not a hormone produced by the anterior pituitary? So here's the anterior pituitary, and these are hormones produced by the anterior pituitary. So remember, anterior pituitary, the hormones produced by the anterior pituitary are my flat pig. M stands for MSH, F stands for FSH, LH, ACTH, TSH, prolactin, and growth hormone. So I could put those as answer choices and say, like, again, which of the following is not a hormone produced by the anterior pituitary? And your answer would be, let's say I said FSH, LH, aldosterone, and growth hormone. The answer would be aldosterone, because remember, A stands for ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone, okay? Not aldosterone. So you want to make sure you memorize those. You also want to remember, if I say to you, what hormones stimulate the anterior pituitary to release FSH or LH or ACTH? Just remember, it's these hormones up here, okay? The releasing hormones and inhibiting hormones will stimulate the anterior pituitary. So I have a chart later on, if you remember that. We have a chart later on that'll go through that. That's really more what I'm looking for, okay? So I wouldn't spend too much time on this other than just saying that I know releasing hormones and inhibiting hormones come from the hypothalamus and are stimulating the anterior pituitary. So the hypothalamus produces, true or false, produces releasing hormones and inhibiting hormones. True. The anterior pituitary produces my flat pig. True. What does the F stand for? FSH. What does the A stand for? ACTH. What does the L stand for? LH. What does the T stand for? TSH. What does P stand for? Prolactin. What does G stand for? Growth hormone. What does M stand for? MSH, melanocyte stimulating hormone. Next, if I say to you, which of the following is produced by the hypothalamus? Well, you know that releasing hormones are produced by the hypothalamus, ADH is produced by the hypothalamus, and oxytocin. Okay? So that's a good question. I could also reverse it and say, which of the following hormones is not produced by the hypothalamus? Okay? Well, if you just memorize what does, and I would suggest that when you walk into the test, you just do this. You'll ADH, for hypothalamus, ADH, oxytocin, releasing hormones, inhibiting hormones. But I'm hoping by this point you already know what those are. Okay? Now, if I say to you, what hormones are produced by the posterior pituitary, your answer is what? None. The posterior pituitary does not produce hormones. It simply stores them. If I say to you what hormones are stored by the posterior pituitary, you say ADH and oxytocin. Next, if I say what hormones produced by the pineal gland, you say melatonin. If I say to you what produces melatonin, you say pineal gland. And now we're going to move ahead and say, what is the function of ADH? Water retention. What is the function of ADH? Water retention. What's the function of ADH? Water retention. What is the function of oxytocin? Uterine contractions. What's the function of oxytocin? Uterine contractions. Remember, that word ox should help you remember uterine. Okay? Pineal gland produces what? Melatonin. And it causes you to go to sleep. So it causes sleep. So what's the function of melatonin? Cause sleep. What's the function of melatonin? Causes sleep. What hormone causes sleep? Melatonin. What hormone causes uterine contractions? Oxytocin. What hormone causes water retention? ADH. Next, as we move ahead, okay, again, I don't really care that much about the cervical. Don't worry about that. But the thyroid gland produces two hormones. What does it produce? Thyroid hormones, known as T3 and T4, and calcitonin. Okay? Now, thyroid gland produces thyroid hormones. What does the thyroid gland produce? Thyroid hormones. Does it also produce calcitonin? Yes. So name two hormones produced by the thyroid gland. Thyroid hormones and calcitonin. Can you name the two thyroid hormones, T3 and T4? Okay, I'm not that concerned about the follicle right this second. So name the thyroid hormones, T3 and T4. Okay, what is the function of T3 and T4? Increases metabolism, or the other way I'll say it is increased chemical reactions or increased metabolic reactions. It's the same thing. Okay, so what increases metabolic reactions? Thyroid hormones. What hormone stimulates metabolic reactions? Thyroid hormones. What are the thyroid hormones? T3 and T4. Calcitonin. Is it produced by the thyroid gland or the parathyroid gland? Thyroid gland. What is calcitonin produced by? Thyroid gland. Okay? What is the function of calcitonin? Decreases calcium in the blood. What does calcitonin do? Decreases calcium concentration in the blood. What does calcitonin do? Decrease calcium concentration in the blood. What is the function of pineal gland? Produces melatonin. What does pineal gland produce? Melatonin. What does pineal gland produce? Melatonin. Does melatonin help you fall asleep? Yes. Does melatonin help you fall asleep? Yes. What helps you fall asleep? Melatonin. What are the two thyroid hormones? T3 and T4. What are the two thyroid hormones? T3 and T4. What two hormones are produced by the thyroid gland? Thyroid hormones and calcitonin. Is T3 produced by the thyroid gland? Yes. Is T4 produced by the thyroid gland? Yes. Is calcitonin produced by the thyroid gland? Yes. So could I ask which of the following is not produced by the thyroid gland? Answer A, T3, B, T4, C, calcitonin, D, parathyroid hormone. Yeah, I could ask that, and then the answer would be parathyroid hormone, because I said which of the following is not produced by the thyroid gland. What's the function of calcitonin? Decrease calcium in the blood. What decreases calcium in the blood? Calcitonin. Parathyroid gland produces what hormone? Parathyroid hormone. What does parathyroid gland produce? Parathyroid hormone. What does parathyroid hormone do? Increase calcium in the blood. What does parathyroid hormone do? Increase calcium in the blood. What increases calcium concentration in the blood? Parathyroid hormone. What increases calcium concentration in the blood? Parathyroid hormone. Which decreases calcium in the blood? Calcitonin. What decreases calcium concentration in the blood? Calcitonin. What increases calcium concentration in the blood? Parathyroid hormone. Next, the thymus produces what hormone? Thymosin. What produces thymosin? The thymus. What produces thymosin? The thymus. Thymosin what is the function of thymosin? Stimulates T cell production. What stimulates T cell production? The thymosin. What hormone stimulates T cell production? Thymosin. What organ produces thymosin? Thymus. What gland produces thymosin? Thymus. What organ and gland produces thymosin? Thymus. What does the thymus produce? Thymosin. What does thymosin stimulate? T cell production. Okay. The anterior pituitary produces what? My flat pig. The hypothalamus produces what? Releasing hormones, inhibiting hormones, ADH, and oxytocin. What does the hypothalamus produce? Releasing hormones, inhibiting hormones, ADH, and oxytocin. What's the function of ADH? Water retention. What's the function of ADH? Water retention. What's the function of oxytocin? Uterine contractions. What's the function of oxytocin? Uterine contractions. The posterior pituitary produces what hormones? Nothing. The posterior pituitary produces what hormones? Nothing. Does the posterior pituitary produce or just store hormones? It stores. What does it store? ADH and oxytocin. What gland produces melatonin? Pineal gland. What gland produces melatonin? Pineal gland. What is the function of melatonin? Causes sleep. What's the function of melatonin? Causes sleep. What organ produces thymosin? Thymus. What organ produces thymosin? Thymus. What organ produces thymosin? Thymus. Thymosin does what? Stimulates T cell production. What's the function of thymosin? Stimulates T cell production. What hormone is responsible for stimulating T cell production? Thymosin. What hormone is responsible for stimulating T cell production? Thymosin. What organs form the gonads? The testes and the ovaries. Just as a reminder, gonads is spelled this way. So these are the two gonads, testes and ovaries. So what two organs are the gonads? Testes and ovaries. Now, I'm just going to make you memorize these things right now. We will eventually do them. Don't worry about it for this test. Next, duodenum produce? Secretin. What does the duodenum produce? Secretin. Don't worry about the function. So, what does the duodenum produce? Secretin. What does the duodenum produce? Secretin. Next, is the pancreas an endocrine organ? Yes, it's in fact a mixed gland, and that's something you want to remember. It's a mixed gland. Now, what does it mean to be most mixed? It means it's both GI and endocrine. So what does it mean? It's both endocrine and what? GI. Meaning it's both endocrine and what? GI. Name two hormones produced by the pancreas. Glucagon and insulin. Name two hormones produced by the pancreas. Glucagon and insulin. Name two hormones produced by the pancreas. Glucagon and insulin. Glucagon and insulin are produced by the what? Pancreas. Glucagon and insulin are produced by the what? Pancreas. Glucagon and insulin are produced by the what? Pancreas. What is the function of glucagon? Increase glucose in the blood. What is the function of glucagon? Increase glucose in the blood. What is the function of insulin? Decrease glucose in the blood. What does insulin do? Decrease glucose concentration in the blood.